The marble was cold against Tola's back as Guan Li's hand covered her mouth, his body shielding hers in the darkness of his private study. Below, gunshots echoed through the mansion, sharp, final, unforgiving. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His eyes found hers in the shadows, and for one impossible moment nothing existed except the heat of his palm against her trembling lips and the violence reverberating through the halls. "Don't make a sound," he whispered, and she nodded, terror making her compliant. But when the shooting stopped and silence descended like a predator, he didn't move away. His thumb traced her jaw. Her heart hammered. "You shouldn't have seen that," he murmured, and she knew he was right. She knew this moment would cost her everything. "This changes everything," she breathed when his hand finally dropped. "Then let it," he answered, and kissed her like they were both already damned. But that moment, that single catastrophic choice had happened 6 years ago. And now, standing in the sterile employee corridor of Daehan Residences, with 3 small hands gripping hers, and her heart hammering against her ribs, Tola Kim was about to discover that some nights never end. They just wait in the shadows, patient and relentless, until you're foolish enough to think you've escaped. 4 months earlier, Busan's Haeundae district had worn its poverty like a badge of shame. The streets smelled of fish markets and broken promises, and people moved through the world as if they'd already given up. In a cramped one-room apartment on the 4th floor of a building that should have been condemned, Tola Kim woke her 3 sons for school while calculating how many more days she could stretch a bag of rice. The morning light filtered through windows she couldn't afford to replace, casting everything in shades of exhaustion and desperation. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Sewell murmured, rubbing his eyes with small fists. He was always the first to voice what all 3 boys felt. 29 years old, and sometimes Tola wondered if she'd ever stop running on empty. "Breakfast is coming, baby," she said, forcing brightness into her voice as she moved through the cramped space. Yoon and Chan were already stirring on their shared sleeping mat, 3 bodies that had somehow learned to fit into spaces too small for the dreams they deserved. Her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror looked as tired as she felt. Dark skin stretched thin over worry. Protective braids coming loose, eyes that had seen too much and rested too little. The night shift at the office cleaning service had ended at 6 a.m. She'd come home, slept for 90 minutes, and now it was time to be a mother. Again. Always. "Are we having eggs?" Yoon asked, the eldest by 3 minutes, and already protective of his brothers in ways that broke Tola's heart. He knew to ask carefully, knew not to hope for too much. "Rice and kimchi," Tola said, portioning out what little they had. 3 bowls. Never enough, but always shared equally. The bills were stacked on the corner of the table like an accusation. Rent 3 months overdue, utilities disconnected twice already, school fees she'd begged extensions for until the administrator's patience had worn thread thin. The work visa that had brought her from Nigeria to Korea 10 years ago had expired 6 years back, and every day since had been lived in the margins, undocumented, invisible, afraid, too African for Korea, too Korean for anywhere else. And now she'd given birth to 3 boys who belonged to both worlds and neither. "Mommy, are you okay?" Chan asked quietly. The youngest by 4 minutes, but somehow the one who saw everything she tried to hide. "Always, baby," Tola lied. "Finish your breakfast. You'll be late for school." She walked them to the bus stop, hugged them tighter than usual, watched them climb aboard with their 2 small backpacks and hand-me-down uniforms. 3 beautiful faces looking back at her through the window. 3 reasons she hadn't given up yet. 3 secrets she'd carried for 6 years. If you're watching Tola struggle to feed her 3 sons on rice she can barely afford, and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I need you to ask yourself, are you really invested in this story? Because Tola is about to make a choice that will bring her face to face with the dangerous man she's been running from for 6 years. And if you're not subscribed, you'll miss the moment when her carefully hidden world explodes. Don't be the person searching desperately for Chapter 10 in a few days. Subscribe now. Comment below if you think Tola should take the Seoul job or stay in Busan. I want to know where you stand. The coffee shop where she worked her day shift was a 20-minute walk she couldn't afford to bus fare for. Her feet ached in shoes held together with hope and super glue, and her phone buzzed with another threatening text from her landlord. She was drowning. Had been drowning for 6 years. The only question was how much longer before she went under completely. "Tola-si, you look exhausted," Mrs. Jong said when Tola arrived for her shift. The cafe owner was kind in the way people are when kindness costs them nothing. "Are you eating enough?" "Yes, ajuma," Tola lied in perfect Korean, marked by an accent she'd never quite shed. Just tired. That night, after the cafe closed and before her night cleaning shift began, Tola sat in the employee bathroom and cried. Silent, efficient tears she'd learned to schedule between obligations. Her phone screen glowed with an email she'd read 17 times. Subject: Employment offer. Daehan Residences, Seoul. Dear Ms. Kim, we are pleased to offer you the position of head housekeeper at Daehan Residences, Gangnam District, Seoul. Compensation: 4.5 million won monthly. Benefits include staff housing, 2-bedroom apartment, medical insurance, and priority enrollment at affiliated international school for dependents. It was too good. The salary alone was 3 times what she made working 3 jobs in Busan. The apartment would be clean, safe, real. The school would give her boys opportunities she'd only dreamed of. But Seoul was where he was. 6 years ago, she'd fled that city pregnant and terrified, with nothing but the clothes on her back and 3 lives growing inside her. She'd sworn never to return. Sworn the boys would never know the truth about their father. The dangerous man who'd shown her tenderness in the aftermath of violence. Who'd let her go with money she'd been too proud to keep, who'd promised she was free. But maybe 6 years is long enough, she thought. Maybe he's forgotten one terrified maid. Maybe I can hide in plain sight in a city of 10 million people. Maybe this time we'll be safe. "Mommy," Seoul's voice came through the phone. Her cousin Hana was watching the boys, but Seoul always called when he felt her absence. "When are you coming home?" "Soon, baby, I love you." "Love you, too. Yoon says to tell you we finished our homework, and Chan drew a picture of you." Tola closed her eyes, saw 3 faces that looked nothing like her, and everything like a man she'd spent one night with. A man who'd ordered death with a nod and kissed her like salvation. A man she'd run from before he could destroy them all. "Tell your brothers I'm proud of them. I'll be home soon." She opened the email again, read it one more time. Then, with shaking fingers, she typed her response. "I accept your offer. When should I start?" The reply came within minutes. "Next Monday. We look forward to welcoming you." What Tola didn't know, couldn't know, was that the offer hadn't been a coincidence. That every word had been carefully chosen. That the man who'd signed off on her hiring had been waiting 6 years for her to have nowhere left to run but back to him. That Seoul wasn't the escape she hoped for. 6 years earlier, Seoul had been a city of neon promises and shadows that swallowed women like Tola whole. At 23, she lived in a rooftop room in Itaewon that leaked when it rained and froze when it snowed. Her work visa had expired 6 months prior. and every day since had been lived in the margins, cleaning hotels for cash, avoiding immigration sweeps, rationing meals she couldn't afford. The call came at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Emergency job, one night only. Payment that made Tola's hands shake. 3 months' rent, her agency supervisor said. But you follow the rules, be invisible, ask no questions, leave when told. What kind of job? Tola asked. The kind you don't ask questions about. The black van arrived at midnight, silent as a hearse. 3 other cleaners climbed in with her, all women, all wearing the same expression of desperate calculation. They drove north to Seongbuk-dong, where old money slept behind high walls and higher gates. The estate appeared gradually through the darkness. Traditional Korean architecture married to modern security. Guards in black suits with earpieces and cold eyes. Tola's role was simple. Serve drinks, clear dishes, disappear. The gathering filled a formal dining room where perhaps 30 men sat in expensive suits, speaking in hushed Korean, punctuated by Japanese and occasional English. The air tasted of imported whiskey and something darker, power negotiating with itself. Tola caught fragments as she moved invisibly between tables. Shipment, territory. The families won't accept this. Her skin prickled with recognition from news reports and whispered warnings. This was organized crime, dressed in 3-piece suits. Then the room changed. He entered like winter itself. Late 20s, maybe 30, dressed in all black that emphasized the sharp angles of his face. Gwon Lee moved through the space, and men who moments ago had commanded millions bowed their heads slightly. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet but absolute, the kind of voice that didn't need to rise to be obeyed. Tola served his table with trembling hands. Their eyes met. His gaze lingered, not leering, just assessing, curious, before she looked away quickly. But throughout the evening, she felt his attention like heat against her skin. Near midnight, the meeting turned. A man was accused of betrayal, of selling information to rivals. Shouting erupted in multiple languages. Then Gwon's voice cut through, calm and final. Take him to the study. Tola shouldn't have followed, shouldn't have needed to see. But fear and curiosity drove her to the hallway outside the closed study door. Through the crack, she saw it. The man on his knees. Gwon standing with hands in his pockets, the nod that served as judge and executioner both. The gunshot was final. Absolute. Tola's gasp was too loud. Tola just witnessed a murder, and her life is about to change forever. If you're feeling that same adrenaline rush she's feeling right now, heart pounding, palms sweating, knowing something catastrophic is about to happen, then you're invested enough to subscribe. Hit that button now, because what happens when Gwon finds her hiding in the shadows is the moment that creates 3 lives 6 years later. Turn on notifications or you'll miss how this dangerous night turns into something neither of them expected. Comment below. Would you have run or stayed? Let me know. Footsteps came fast. She ran, terrified, found herself ironically hiding in the study itself. A storage closet among filing cabinets, holding her breath while men searched. They left eventually. She waited in darkness, shaking, trying not to exist. Then the door opened. Footsteps. Measured, unhurried. You can come out now. Gwon's voice was calm, almost gentle. Tola stepped out on trembling legs. Gwon Lee stood in the center of his study, hands in his pockets, blood still drying on the floor behind him. Their eyes met, and instead of fear, instead of the death she expected, she saw something infinitely more dangerous. Recognition. As if he'd been waiting for her all night. As if he'd known she was there all along. Tola stepped out of the shadows on trembling legs. Gwon Lee stood in the center of his study, hands in his pockets, blood still drying on the floor behind him. She waited for violence, for disposal, for the inevitable end. Instead, he gestured to a leather chair near his desk. "Sit." Her legs gave out. She sat. He moved to a bar cart, poured amber liquid into 2 glasses. When he pressed one into her shaking hands, the crystal felt impossibly heavy. "Drink. You're in shock." The whiskey burned going down, but it cleared the fog of terror slightly. They sat in silence, her clutching the glass like a lifeline, him studying her with eyes that missed nothing. "What's your name?" "Tola Kim." "Nigerian?" She nodded, unable to speak more. "How long in Korea?" 4 years. "Documented?" Her silence answered. His expression didn't change. "I could report you. Have you deported tonight?" "I know," she whispered, "but I won't." "Why?" Something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile, but close. "Because you looked at me like I was human. Most people here look at me like I'm a weapon they hope to aim. You just killed a man. I did. He betrayed people who trusted him, sold information that got 3 families killed." His voice remained calm, matter of fact. "Did you want me to forgive him?" Tola had no answer to that. No good answer existed. "You think I'm a monster," he said. "I think you're dangerous. That's more honest than most people manage." He asked about her life then, why Korea, what happened, and somehow, impossibly, she found herself talking. The words spilled out. Family tragedy, desperate migration, visa expiration, falling through cracks, working invisible jobs for invisible wages, always afraid. "I'm nobody here," she finished quietly. "Just hands that clean. I understand that feeling." His voice held unexpected vulnerability. Being seen only for what you can do, not who you are, being feared but not known. She looked at him skeptically. "You? I inherited this world, my father's empire, his enemies, his sins. People see the name, the power, not the person trapped inside it." "You could leave. Could you?" They both knew the answer was no. The conversation drifted then. Music, food, memories of homes they'd both lost. Dawn approached outside the windows. Tola realized hours had passed. She should leave, should run. "What happens now?" she asked instead. "I have my men take you home, pay you triple. You forget you were ever here." And if I can't forget, the air changed, charged, dangerous. Guan stood, moved closer. "Then you're in more danger than you realize." Tola stood too. "From you?" "From what I want to do when you look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you see me, like I'm not a monster, like you might—" He stopped. "Like I might want you anyway?" She breathed. "Stop. Right here. This is the moment. The kiss that creates 3 lives. The night that haunts both of them for 6 years. The choice that changes everything. If you're feeling what Tola and Guan are feeling right now, that impossible pull between 2 people who should never have met, then you understand this story. Subscribe now before they cross the line they can never uncross. And comment, Team Tola or Team Guan, because after what happens next, you're going to have to pick a side. Don't miss what comes after this kiss, it's devastating. The kiss was inevitable, desperate, tasting of whiskey and danger, and 2 lonely people finding something neither had words for. His hands tangled in her hair. Hers gripped his shirt. "This changes everything," she whispered. "Then let it," he answered. She followed him upstairs. Morning light woke her alone in luxury she'd only ever cleaned. Massive bed, floor-to-ceiling windows, Han River spreading below. On the nightstand, an envelope thick with cash, and a note in precise handwriting. You deserve more than this world can offer you. Take the money, leave Seoul if you can. I won't look for you. I won't trap you here. You're free. GL, Tola dressed quickly, took the money she desperately needed, and fled before anyone could see her leave. She told herself it was just one night. Just survival. Just two lonely people finding brief solace. She didn't know that in 6 weeks, her body would betray the lie. Or that the man who'd let her go free would spend 6 years tracking her shadow, waiting for the day she'd have nowhere left to run but back to him. 2 weeks after that night, Tola returned to the rhythm of survival. Cleaning offices in Itaewon, avoiding the immigration checkpoints that had started appearing on subway platforms, existing in the margins where undocumented women learned to make themselves invisible. But her body refused to cooperate with invisibility. The exhaustion came first, bone deep, inescapable, different from the tiredness of working 3 jobs. Then the nausea that ambushed her at random moments, sending her rushing to bathrooms that weren't always there. Her breasts ached. Her jeans wouldn't button. Something was wrong, but she told herself it was stress. Bad food. The trauma of that night catching up with her. You need to see a doctor, said Minji, another undocumented worker who cleaned the same office building. They'd shared cigarettes and silences for 2 years, the kind of friendship built on mutual understanding that neither woman asked questions the other couldn't answer. I'm fine. You threw up twice this shift. That's not fine. The free clinic in Itaewon operated out of a basement, staffed by volunteer doctors who didn't ask for papers. Tola waited 3 hours on a plastic chair, surrounded by others who existed in Seoul's shadows. When her name was finally called, the nurse's eyes held judgment Tola had learned to ignore. The pregnancy test took 5 minutes. The positive result stopped her world. The hormone levels are unusually high, the doctor said, studying her chart with a frown. I'd like to do an ultrasound. Tola nodded, voiceless. The screen flickered to life, grainy and black. The technician moved the wand across Tola's barely there stomach, paused, moved again, paused longer. Oh, the technician breathed. What? Tola's voice cracked. Congratulations, the doctor said, though his tone suggested condolences might be more appropriate. You're having triplets. 3 tiny clusters of cells on the screen. 3 futures she couldn't afford. 3 lives created in one reckless night with a man whose last name she barely knew and whose world she'd fled. 1 baby was impossible. 3 was catastrophic. Triplets. 3 babies. Tola is pregnant with the children of Seoul's most dangerous man, and she has exactly 3 choices: terminate, tell him, or run. If you're not subscribed right now, you're going to miss which choice she makes and how it shapes the next 6 years of her life. This is where everything splits, where one decision creates the entire story you've been watching. Subscribe and turn on notifications, or spend the next week wondering what happened to those 3 tiny heartbeats. Comment below which choice you would make if you were Tola. I'm genuinely curious. Tola walked home in a daze, her mind cycling through options like prayer beads. Termination would cost money she didn't have, and the clinic had made it clear that aborting triplets was dangerous, expensive, complicated. Telling Guan would trap her in his world forever, assuming he even believed her. A one-night maid claiming pregnancy by Seoul's most dangerous man, she could already imagine his cold dismissal. That left option 3. Keep them, hide, survive somehow. Her rooftop room door stood ajar. Inside, everything she owned lay scattered like carnage. Her mattress slashed open, her few clothes torn, and spray-painted across the wall in harsh Korean characters. Guan Li's whore, you saw too much. Terror crystallized into clarity, Someone from that night knew who she was, which meant she wasn't safe, which meant the lives growing inside her weren't safe. Tola packed everything salvageable into 2 bags with shaking hands, called her cousin in Busan, a woman she'd met once at a family gathering years ago, their only connection being blood too diluted to mean much. "I need help," Tola whispered into the phone. "I need to disappear." The midnight bus to Busan was half empty. Tola took a window seat, watched Seoul's lights blur past like accusations. The city that had given her nothing and taken everything now receded into darkness. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach. "I'll keep you safe," she promised the 3 tiny heartbeats she couldn't yet feel. "I promise." What Tola didn't know was that Guan Li had been watching, that his men had reported her pregnancy within days, that he'd sent the money she thought was luck, that he'd tracked her bus to Busan and ordered his people to protect her from a distance. He'd let her go once, but his children? Those he would never release. He was simply waiting for the right moment to reclaim what was his. Busan became Tola's purgatory, measured in sleepless nights and prayers she wasn't sure anyone heard. The pregnancy was brutal from the start. 3 babies, draining a body already running on fumes and fear. The clinic doctor had been kind but firm. Bed rest, proper nutrition, prenatal vitamins she couldn't afford. Tola had nodded and returned to her cousin's cramped apartment to work night shifts cleaning offices because bed rest was a luxury reserved for women who had choices. Her body screamed in protest. Swollen ankles, constant nausea, a spine that felt like it might snap under the weight of carrying 3 lives. At 8 months, premature labor sent her to the hospital in an ambulance she couldn't pay for. The charity covered it. A miracle, they said. Tola had wept in gratitude, never knowing the money came from a man in Seoul who'd been watching from the shadows since the day she fled. September brought labor fast and terrifying. Yoon arrived first, wailing his fury at the world, a fighter from his first breath. Sul came second, quiet until he wasn't, then crying like his heart was breaking. Chan slipped into the world nearly silent, watchful even as the nurses cleaned him, as if he understood already that survival meant observing, calculating, staying small. 3 tiny bodies placed in her arms. 3 perfect faces that looked nothing like her and everything like him. Tola had stared at them through tears and exhaustion and made a promise. "I'll give you everything. I'll keep you safe." The first year was a blur of feeding schedules and formula she couldn't afford, and sleeping in 90-minute increments between shifts. Her cousin watched the babies while Tola worked, but guilt gnawed at her constantly. Every moment away felt like abandonment. Anonymous money orders appeared exactly when she needed them most. She thought they were charity. She never questioned miracles when drowning. By year 2, the boys were walking. Chaos multiplied by 3. Tola juggled day cleaning and night kitchen work, saw her sons for maybe 2 hours daily, and hated herself for it. Year 3 brought questions. "Where's our daddy?" She created the lie then, the fairy tale that would haunt her for years. He was a hero. He died saving people. Yoon had looked up at her with eyes exactly like Guan Li's and said, "I'll be a hero like Daddy." Tola's heart had shattered. Year 4 brought preschool and racism, other children asking why their skin was dark, teachers fumbling through well-meaning ignorance. Tola taught them fierceness. "You're beautiful. You're strong. Never forget." Year 5 brought fragile stability. A tiny apartment that was theirs, the boys thriving despite everything. Then immigration enforcement increased in Busan, and Tola realized she was one random check away from losing them to foster care. 6 years. Tola raised 3 boys alone for 6 years while their father watched from the shadows. If you've watched her struggle through pregnancy, birth, toddlerhood, racism, poverty, and fear without subscribing, I honestly don't understand you. This woman is a warrior. These boys are survivors. And you're about to see what happens when she's forced to return to Seoul. Subscribe now or miss the moment when 6 years of secrets collide with the present. Comment where you're watching from. I want to see how far Tola's story has reached across the world. Year 6 brought desperation and a job offer too good to refuse. Seoul, where he was. But surely 6 years was enough. Surely he'd forgotten one terrified maid. On the bus back to Seoul, Chan held Tola's hand and asked quietly, "Mommy, will our daddy's spirit be happy we're going to his city?" Tola looked at her youngest son, who had his father's exact eyes, his father's quiet intensity, and lied one more time. "Yes, baby, I think he will." She didn't know that Guan Li was no ghost, that he'd watched them from afar for 6 years, that he'd orchestrated this return, that in 48 hours 3 little boys would meet the father they'd been told was dead, and that Tola would discover that some men never let go. They just wait. Seoul swallowed them whole the moment the bus pulled into the terminal. Tola gripped 3 small hands as they navigated streets that glittered with wealth she'd only ever scrubbed clean, never possessed. Daehan residences rose 42 stories into the sky, all glass and steel and impossible promises. The lobby alone made Seoul gasp, marble floors reflecting chandeliers, art that probably cost more than their lives were worth. "Miss Kim?" The property manager materialized in a sharp black suit. "Welcome. Your apartment is ready." The 15th floor? 2 bedrooms. A kitchen where appliances actually worked. Windows without cracks. Yoon ran from room to room, shouting discoveries. "Mommy, we have real beds." Seoul stood at a desk by the window, running his fingers over the clean surface. "I can draw here, really draw." Chan turned slowly in the center of the living room, his voice barely a whisper. "We have a home," Tola cried in the bathroom where they couldn't see. The first day of work felt like stepping into a different world. Professional orientation, crisp uniforms, a team of 5 housekeepers she'd supervise on the executive floors. Miss Park was efficient and kind, explaining procedures with no hint of the danger coiled beneath this gleaming surface. In the break room, her new colleagues gossiped over coffee. "No one ever sees the owner," a woman named Jiwon said. "They say he owns half of Gangnam." Tola stayed quiet, filing the information away as unimportant. The boys' school was a 15-minute walk through streets lined with ginkgo trees. International curriculum, diverse students, teachers who smiled when Tola explained her sons were new to Seoul. She watched Yoon, Seoul, and Chan enter their classroom. 3 brave faces looking back at her one last time before diving into their new life. Other children approached with curiosity instead of cruelty. Maybe Seoul would be different. Maybe they'd finally found safety. 2 weeks passed like a dream. Tola cooked dinner in their actual kitchen while the boys did homework at a real table. Bedtime meant tucking 3 children into 3 separate beds, something that still made her throat tight with gratitude. "Mommy, do you miss him?" Chan asked one night. "Our daddy? Every day, baby." What did he look like? Seoul wanted to know. Tola chose her words carefully, not knowing she was describing the man watching them from miles away. Strong, dark hair, eyes that saw everything. "Like us?" Yoon asked. "Yes, exactly like you." She stood at the window after they slept, watching Seoul's lights, thinking, "We made it. We're going to be okay." She was wrong. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Director Lee requests to meet all department heads. Your appointment. Today, 6 p.m., penthouse level. Lucky you, Ji-won said. Most people never even see him. Tola thinks she's safe. She thinks Seoul is a fresh start. She thinks that job offer was luck. She's wrong about all of it. And in about 30 seconds, she's going to walk into that penthouse office and discover that the past 6 years were just borrowed time. If you're not subscribed with notifications on, you're going to miss the look on her face when she sees who's been pulling the strings. Hit that button now. Comment trapped if you already knew this job offer was too good to be true. Let me see who's really been paying attention. Tola left the boys with Mrs. Ann, the kind neighbor who'd adopted them like grandsons. She dressed in her one professional blazer, reviewed her department's performance metrics, assumed she'd meet some middle-aged executive for a routine welcome. The elevator to the 42nd floor was unnaturally quiet. The doors opened onto slate floors and frosted glass. She knocked. Come in. The office was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Seoul sprawling below like scattered diamonds. A figure stood at those windows, back to her, silhouetted against the city lights. He turned. Time stopped. Gwon Lee. Exactly the same. Sharp features, cold eyes, dangerous beauty wrapped in expensive black fabric. His expression cycled through nothing. Recognition. Something predatory. Hello, Tola, he said, and her name in his voice was a key turning in a lock she thought she'd escaped. This isn't possible, she whispered. Sit down, please. Not a request. Her legs moved on autopilot. Her mind screamed the truth. Daehan Residences was his. The job was his design, the scholarship, his money, the apartment, his trap. She'd walked straight into it. Gwon Lee sat behind his desk, steepled his fingers, and smiled. It wasn't warm. It was the smile of a man who'd been playing chess while she thought she was running free. 6 years? He said quietly. I've been very patient, Tola. But patience has limits. And you have something that belongs to me. Her blood turned to ice, because she knew exactly what he meant. And she knew, with terrible certainty, that he'd brought her back for one reason only, to reclaim his sons. You look well, Gwon said, his voice smooth as blade drawn across silk. Busan agreed with you. Tola's throat closed. You knew where I was? The entire time. He moved to his desk with the predatory grace of a man who'd never had to ask for anything twice. Did you really think you could disappear from me? Then why didn't you come for you? Something flickered in those cold eyes. I wanted to, but I wanted something more. What? For you to come back on your own, well, with some encouragement. His slight smile was a knife between her ribs. The job offer, the perfect timing, the scholarship for the boys, all of it, every single piece. I'm resigning, Tola said, standing on trembling legs, effective immediately. Sit down, Tola. No, I won't work for you. I won't. You'll sit down, or I'll start asking questions about your immigration status, your employment history. How you've been supporting yourself and 3 children on undocumented wages. His tone never rose, never hardened, didn't need to. Tola sat. Gwon opened a drawer and slid a manila folder across the polished desk. She opened it with shaking hands and felt the world drop away. Photographs, her pregnant belly swollen with 3 lives in a Busan market. The hospital corridor, her face exhausted and tear-streaked, holding 3 tiny newborns. Years of surveillance, the boys at daycare, at playgrounds walking to school. Recent photos from last month. 3 identical faces, Yoon, Sul, Chan. all looking like miniature versions of the man watching her now. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Since the day you left Seoul pregnant. Did you really think I wouldn't have you followed?" Anger broke through her fear like a fist through ice. "You let me struggle. For 6 years, alone, pregnant, terrified, working myself to death raising 3 babies by myself. I sent money." "What?" "The anonymous payments, the scholarship, the medical bills that mysteriously cleared. That wasn't charity, Tola. That was me." She couldn't process it, didn't know if it made anything better or only worse. "I was protecting you from a distance," Guan continued, "from my world, from the people who would have used you and the boys against me. Or you were controlling us. Both can be true." He stood, moving around the desk. Tola rose too, refusing to be cornered. "I want to meet them, properly." "No, that wasn't a question. They think you're dead. They think their father was a hero who saved people." Guan paused. "And what do you think I am?" "A criminal, a killer. A man who terrifies everyone around him. And yet you let me touch you. You let me inside you. You created 3 lives with me." Tola flinched. That was a mistake. He stepped closer. "Those boys are not mistakes, and you don't believe that any more than I do." "Here's what's going to happen," Guan said, his voice dropping. "You're going to stay in Seoul, work your job, and tomorrow evening I'm going to visit my sons. And if I refuse, then I'll use every legal resource at my disposal to claim paternity, demand custody, and given your undocumented status, I'll win." "You wouldn't. Test me." "Why?" The word broke from her. "Why does it matter? You let me go once. You have your empire, your power. Why do you care about 3 little boys?" For the first time his mask cracked. "Because they're mine. Because I've watched them from afar for 6 years, and every day I didn't know them was torture. Because you took the only good thing I ever created and hid it from me. I was protecting them." "From what? From me?" "Yes." The word hung between them, painful and honest. "Then you'll have to learn to trust me," Guan said quietly. "Because I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you." He returned to his desk, putting distance between them with deliberate control. "What have you told them about me?" Tola's voice was reluctant, small. "That you were brave, that you died protecting others, that you would have loved them." Something shifted in his expression. "And did you believe that?" "I wanted to. But you don't. I don't know what to believe about you." "Then let me show you. Let me be their father." "Being a father isn't about blood," Tola said. "It's about showing up, being safe, protecting them from harm. Your world is nothing but harm. My world is also power, resources, protection. Everything you've struggled to give them, I can provide. At what cost? That depends on you." "You're dismissed," Guan said. "Go home to our sons. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. I'll visit." "Don't do this. It's already done." Tola reached the door on trembling legs. "Tola." She stopped but didn't turn. "I'm not the enemy, I never was, but I understand why you see me that way. Tomorrow we start changing that." Tola returned to her apartment on shaking legs. The boys were already asleep. 3 small forms in their beds, innocent and oblivious. She stood in their doorway and watched them breathe. Tomorrow, their entire world would change. Tomorrow, the father she'd told them was dead would walk through that door, and Tola had no idea how to protect them from the truth, or from the man who'd been haunting her dreams for 6 years. Morning light filtered through the apartment windows like an accusation. Tola's hands shook as she portioned rice into 3 bowls, her mind still trapped in Guan's office. In his voice saying her name like a claim he'd never relinquished. The rice spilled. She stared at the scattered grains on the counter, unable to make her fingers work properly. "Mommy, are you okay?" Yoon's voice cut through her paralysis. She forced a smile that felt like broken glass. "Fine, baby." "You're sad," Chan said quietly. Those watchful eyes, Guan's eyes, seeing everything she tried to hide. "Did something bad happen at work?" Sewell asked, already emotional, already picking up on the tension vibrating through the small kitchen. How do you tell 6-year-olds their entire life is about to change? You don't. You wait. You hold them tighter at the bus stop and watch them climb aboard, 3 confused faces looking back as you wave with a hand that won't stop trembling. Work was impossible. Tola moved through her tasks like a ghost, dropping supplies, forgetting room numbers, her mind spinning with Guan's ultimatum. "Tomorrow at 7 p.m., I'll visit my sons." "Are you all right?" her coworker asked. "You seem..." "I'm fine." The universal lie. Then her phone buzzed. "Mrs. An, the boys found something. You should come home." Panic tasted like copper. Tola abandoned her cart mid-hallway and ran. The apartment was too quiet when she entered. 3 boys sat at the table like judges at a trial. Identical expressions of careful control on faces that looked so much like Guan it physically hurt. Chan held something, a photograph, small and creased. Tola's heart stopped. The old phone, the box in her closet she thought was hidden. Children were cleverer than lies. "Mommy," Yoon said, his voice careful, prosecutorial. "Who is this man?" The photograph showed Tola and Guan the morning after, his face relaxed in sleep, her smile soft with foolish hope. The only photo she'd kept, the evidence she should have destroyed. Her legs gave out. She sat. "That's your father?" Sewell's face lit up. "That's Daddy, the hero?" "Yes, no, it's complicated." "You said he died." Yoon's words landed like stones, direct, unflinching. 6 years old and already his father's son. I couldn't. The words fractured. "You lied," Chan said simply, and the truth of it shattered something in Tola's chest. She started crying, messy, graceless tears she couldn't control. "I'm sorry. I was trying to protect you." "From what?" Yoon demanded. "From his world, from danger." "Is he a bad man?" Sewell's question hung in the air, the one she dreaded for 6 years. "I don't know. He's complicated." "Is he alive?" Chan asked. "Yes," she whispered. 3 voices, simultaneous. "Where is he?" 3 little boys just discovered their entire lives have been a lie. Their father isn't dead, he's alive, he's in Seoul, and he's coming tonight. If you've ever lied to protect someone you love, if you've ever seen your secrets explode in your face, then you understand what Tola is feeling right now. Subscribe before these boys meet their father for the first time. Comment if you think Tola was right to lie, or if she should have told them the truth from the beginning. And if you still haven't subscribed, explain yourself in the comments. I genuinely want to understand what's stopping you. The truth spilled out in fragments they could understand. Their father was alive. He lived in Seoul. He wanted to meet them. He was coming tonight. Tola watched their faces cycle through confusion, anger, hope, fear, emotions too big for such small bodies. "Does he want us?" Yoon asked, and Tola heard the real question. "Are we wanted?" "Yes, very much." "Will he love us?" Sewell, always needing reassurance. "I think so." "Are you scared of him?" Chan, seeing through every defense. "Yes." "Then why are you letting him come?" "Because he's your father." "And you deserve to know him, and because I don't have a choice." Yoon straightened, protective instinct blazing. "If he's mean to you, We'll protect you." Sul cried and smiled simultaneously. Chan processed in silence, turning the photograph over and over in small hands. "We look like him," Sul observed. "Do we act like him?" Yoon asked. "You're yourselves," Tola said fiercely. "You're perfect exactly as you are." But privately, she saw it. Yoon's intensity, Sul's hidden depths, Chan's watchful silence. All three wearing their father's eyes. The hours until 7 crawled like years. The boys changed into nice clothes without being asked. Tola's hands shook as she smoothed her dress, tidied the already clean apartment, checked the clock obsessively. At 6:45, 3 boys sat on the couch, serious and nervous and excited. At 6:55, Tola looked out the window and saw the black car pull up. Guan emerged in dark jeans and a black shirt, looked up, found her watching. Their eyes met across the distance. He started walking toward the building. The knock came at exactly 7 p.m. Guan Li was nothing if not precise. Tola looked at her 3 sons, their faces a mixture of fear and hope, and realized that nothing she'd done for 6 years had prepared her for this moment. Yoon stood first, brave, despite trembling hands. "I'll answer it," he said, and Tola saw Guan in every line of her son's face, every note of his voice. The door opened, and for the first time, 3 little boys came face to face with the father they'd been told was dead. The knock came at exactly 7 p.m. Guan Li was nothing if not precise. Tola watched Yoon stand, 6 years old but trying to be brave. His small hand reaching for the doorknob. "I'll get it," he said, and Tola saw Guan in every line of her son's face, every note of his voice. The door opened. Time stopped. "Hello," Guan said carefully, looking down at his son for the first time. "You must be Yoon." "How do you know my name?" Yoon's voice was steady despite his trembling hands. "Your mother told me about you. All of you." Behind Yoon, Sul and Chan appeared. 3 identical faces staring up at the man who looked like an older version of them. Guan stood frozen in the doorway, visibly affected, struggling with emotion he couldn't quite control. Tola stepped forward, her voice barely steady. "Boys, this is your father, Guan Li." The silence stretched impossibly long. Then Sul, always the emotional one, whispered, "You're not dead." "No," Guan said quietly. "I'm very much alive." Chan tilted his head, studying this stranger with their father's eyes. "Mommy said you were a hero." Guan's gaze found Tola's, something unreadable passing between them. "Your mother is kind. I'm not sure I deserve that word." "Why didn't you come before?" Yoon asked, direct and unflinching. "Because I didn't know where you were, and your mother was protecting you. She thought I was dangerous." "Are you?" "Sometimes," Guan admitted, "but never to you, never to her." Yoon evaluated this, decided something. "You can come in." Permission granted. The other 2 boys accepted it immediately, children's instinct recognizing connection despite years of absence. Guan entered their modest apartment, taking in the drawings on the walls, the toys scattered across the floor, the school bags lined up by the door. Evidence of 3 lives he'd only watched from a distance. The boys led him to the couch with surprising ease. Guan sat, and 3 small bodies arranged themselves facing him. Tola stood apart, watching, protective, terrified. "What do we call you?" Sul asked. "What would you like to call me?" "Daddy?" Something broke in Guan's expression. "I would like that very much." The next hour passed in questions and careful answers. The boys showed him Sul's drawings, dozens of imagined fathers he'd never met. Yoon demonstrated his strategy games. Chan asked questions that cut too deep for a 6-year-old. And Guan listened with an attention Tola hadn't expected, gentle in ways that contradicted everything she'd believed about him. When the boys ran to show him their room, Tola found herself alone with Guan in the kitchen. "Thank you for not telling them everything," she whispered. "I wouldn't hurt them, not for anything." He paused. "They're extraordinary. You did well, raising them alone." Tears burned her eyes. "I did what I had to. I want to help now, really help. I want them to have my name, my protection, everything I can give them. And me? That's your choice. But I meant what I said 6 years ago. You deserve more than this world can offer. I don't need you to save me. I know, but maybe we can save each other." Another knock shattered the moment. Guan's entire posture changed, alert, dangerous. One of his men stood in the hallway, whispered urgently in Korean. Guan's expression turned to cold fury. "We have a problem," he said, returning to Tola. "Red Dragon faction. They've learned about the boys." "What does that mean?" "It means my enemies know my greatest weakness now." "You brought danger to them." "No. You brought them back to Seoul, where my enemies operate, where I have the power to protect them. I came because I had no choice. You came because I left you no choice, and now they're in danger because of both of us." Yoon appeared in the hallway. "What's wrong?" Both adults shifted immediately to calm. "Nothing, baby," Tola lied. "You're lying again," Yoon said quietly. Guan knelt to their level. "Your mother and I need to make sure you're safe. Will you trust me?" Chan spoke first. "Mommy, if he can keep us safe, we should go. I want to see where Daddy lives," Sul added. Yoon measured Guan with eyes too old for his face. "We'll go. But if you hurt Mommy, we'll fight you." Guan's voice was steady. "I give you my word, I will protect all of you. Always." Within an hour, black SUVs arrived. The boys treated it like an adventure, excited and oblivious to the danger. Tola packed their lives into suitcases again, terrified of losing control again. Guan's estate in Seongbuk-dong rose before them like a fortress. The same mansion where everything had begun 6 years ago, full circle, gates, guards, surveillance, the boys awed by the size. Tola drowning in memories of gunshots and his hands on her skin. "They'll be safe here," Guan promised, showing them to a guest wing with 3 bedrooms. "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "And then what?" "Then we figure out how to move forward. Together." That night, unable to sleep, Tola found Guan in the traditional garden. They walked in silence until he finally spoke. "I've killed people, Tola, done terrible things. But those boys, they're the only purely good thing I've ever created. They're good because of what I taught them. Then teach me how to be the father they deserve. I don't know if I can trust you. Then watch me earn it." He paused. "I never forgot you, never stopped thinking about that night. It was 6 years ago, and I remember every second." "So do I," she admitted, barely breathing. He leaned closer. She pulled back. "Not yet, maybe not ever." "I'll wait." His phone shattered the moment. "They made a move, tried to grab one of my men's children. This is your world. And now we're protecting them together." Morning light found Tola at the window, watching Seoul wake. 3 small boys slept in the room behind her. Guan joined her, standing close but not touching. "What happens now?" "We survive, we protect them, we become a family." "Can people like us have families?" "We're about to find out." Outside, black cars circled the estate. Tola took his hand, her choice this time. "Together, but I make the rules about our sons." "Agreed. Behind them, 3 boys stirred awake, seeing their parents standing together for the first time. "Are we a family now?" Yoon asked. Tola and Guan looked at each other. No good answer existed. "We're trying to be," Tola said. For now, it had to be enough. But in the shadows of the Red Dragon faction's headquarters, a man pinned 3 photographs to a board. 3 innocent faces. 3 perfect targets. "Guan Li's weakness," he said, "has finally been revealed. And now we end him. 3 little boys are now targets of Seoul's deadliest gang. A Nigerian mother and a Korean crime lord are trying to become a family while enemies circle outside. And you're still not subscribed? Part 2 drops soon, and it's going to be brutal. Kidnapping attempts, betrayals, impossible choices, and the question of whether love born from violence can survive. Subscribe right now and turn on all notifications. Comment, protect them if you're invested in this family's survival. The game had changed. The stakes were 3 small lives, and some legacies were worth dying for.